Chapter 1. Mid-late 2023 Economic Pressure and Strategic Posturing. It began without bombs, bullets, or bloodshed. Instead, the opening salvos of the war for Taiwan came wrapped in cargo manifests, commodity charts, and embargo declarations. In Beijing's war rooms, military plans were already being sharpened into blades. But in public, China waged war through economics, cloaking their aggression in the language of trade disputes and diplomatic reunification. In mid-2023, the People's Republic of China initiated an escalating series of economic sanctions against Taiwan, targeting vital sectors like agriculture, fisheries, and most critically, high-tech manufacturing. Taiwan's agricultural exports, pineapples, bananas, guava, seafood, were immediately blocked from Chinese markets, devastating rural communities and stoking fear that worse was coming. And it was. The true target was always semiconductors. China's tech sector had grown addicted to the cutting-edge chips produced by Taiwan's Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, the single most strategically important tech company on Earth. At the time, TSMC was producing over 90% of the world's most advanced microchips. Beijing knew that if it could disrupt Taiwan's semiconductor production, it could cripple global competitors, pressure Washington, and gain technological parity in one strike. But what Xi Jinping and the CCP didn't anticipate was just how far Taiwan had prepared to go. The stockpile plan under the radar, TSMC had already enacted a secret emergency protocol, Project Persephone, drafted years earlier under the assumption that China's appetite for the island would eventually turn militant. With quiet backing from the National Security Council and U.S. intelligence, TSMC had built up a classified multi-year stockpile of rare materials and precursor chemicals needed for advanced lithography and chip etching. This meant that when China attempted to embargo key raw materials, such as photoresists, etching gases, and cobalt-based compounds, TSMC didn't even blink. It continued operating at near full capacity. Even more critically, it began smuggling chips out to global allies via encrypted orders through third-party Southeast Asian partners. The embargo was not only ineffective, it backfired, spotlighting China's dependence on the very industry it hoped to control. The scorched silicon doctrine. But the most stunning move came from TSMC's executive board in coordination with Taiwan's Ministry of Defense and U.S. Cyber Command. In a closed-door session held in late August 2023, the board unanimously approved a last resort protocol. If PLA boots touched TSMC soil, every fab would be destroyed. Remote-controlled demolition protocols were tested in secret. Fab layouts were redesigned to be remotely scorched within hours using industrial sabotage systems. Some engineers dubbed it the Silicon Guillotine. The strategy wasn't just a deterrent, it was a warning to the world. If we go down, we take the future with us. And Washington agreed. Covert CIA and NSA teams helped rig the fabs with sabotage malware and physical demo safes capable of melting clean rooms, corrupting fab firmware, and rendering ASML lithography machines irreparably damaged. By the end of 2023, every major Western capital knew that Taiwan's fabs were now both a crown jewel and a tripwire. No invader would be allowed to benefit from their seizure. China's quiet counteroffensive. Realizing their economic pressure had failed, Beijing pivoted from embargo to covert subversion. Chinese intelligence doubled down on its long-term infiltration strategy, what PLA doctrine called the Anaconda Plan. Cyberattacks on TSC's data centers intensified. Social media bots began pushing anti-Taiwanese nationalism, fueling discontent among Chinese diaspora and mainland-born workers living in Taiwan. Infiltration into Taiwan's legislative yuan and military logistics network picked up, with one notable scandal revealing bribes paid to ROC logistics officers to delay the movement of artillery shells to mountain depots. But even as they worked to soften the target, China knew the hourglass was nearly empty. Satellite imagery showed U.S. submarines repositioning in the Philippine Sea. Japanese F-35 squadrons began conducting weekly patrols over Yonaguni Island, just 67 miles from Taiwan's easternmost tip. The world was waking up. The calm before the inferno to outsiders. The months leading up to 2024 still looked like posturing. Markets dipped. Embassies issued vague warnings. CNN ran features on semiconductors and sovereignty in early evening slots. But inside the war rooms of Hualien, Taipei, and Washington, there was no illusion. They were staring down the final months of peace. By December 2023, Taiwan's military began shifting assets to the eastern coast. ROC Air Force Command transferred key radar and fighter squadrons into hardened mountain bases. Civilians quietly enrolled in emergency preparedness drills, and local mayors were instructed to secure food and fuel reserves under the guise of climate preparation. The signs were there for anyone looking closely. A storm was coming.